I need your help answering a very important question. In fact, actually, it's not important at all. The world's on fire, but I need to know. Maybe you can help me figure out who did it better, Stitch or Toothless? And that's sort of a broad question, but I mean overall, in terms of adapting an animated character into a live-action movie this year, who did it best? It's good to be back making one of these longer-form Watch Buddy videos. Life has been lifing, if you know what I mean. There were a few movies that I wanted to do longer-form reviews for on here. Didn't get a chance to. I wanted to do Final Destination Bloodlines, wanted to do the live-action Lilo and Stitch, wanted to do Life of Chuck. I guess I could still do Life of Chuck. But I never got around to it, and I still want to talk about Stitch and Toothless. And so today we're going to be doing a longer-form Watch Buddies style video, but specifically about adapting these characters. You're going to help me answer this question because, again, it is so dire. It's so important. And right up front, other than them both being adapted into live action in 2025, they actually have a lot in common. Most importantly, this gentleman here, Dean DeBlois. Do you come here for entertainment videos or French pronunciation? Deanie Boy is not only the creator of the original How to Train Your Dragon animated movies, he directed the live action. He's the first to sort of break that barrier and direct the original and the remake. But he's also one of the directors of the original Lilo and Stitch. He was not asked to return in any capacity for the Disney remake. Chris Sanders did come back because he does the voice of Stitch. So not only are Stitch and Toothless connected because of a shared director, he's actually on record talking about how Stitch's design influenced Toothless's design in both the original and the redo. Toothless was definitely Stitchified in terms of a character design, and we're talking about oversized proportions there, things you wouldn't see in the natural world that just make him more expressive as a character, more cute. The live-action Lilo and Stitch definitely from the beginning of production strived to stick as close to the character designs from the animated movie as possible. And though I don't think it's a good movie, I think if we're talking about just the film overall, How to Train Your Dragon takes the bag easily. If you're gonna do one of these live-action remakes, which you don't have to, but if you're going to, How to Train Your Dragon is the template for how to do it. However, Lilo and Stitch is a huge smacking success. Lots of people went to see it. I'm really desperately trying not to compliment this movie. They did a good job adapting Stitch to live action. He's cute. He feels like the character from the movies, particularly in the advertising campaign. I felt like we really got to see that old school rambunctious Stitch spirit all over the commercials and the marketing and the posters and the fun advertising they did. And I guess on that same note, though, I think Toothless looks as good as a Toothless could look in live action. I think that actually some of the character is stripped away or is a little bit watered down in this version. I don't think he's as cute. I don't think he engages with the human characters as much as he does in the animated. And this thing's almost a shot-for-shot remake. There's really only one or two scenes that they've completely removed, but the best way I can describe it is in little recognizable moments, he's just slightly less Toothless. You know how in the live-action Lion King, Simba like technically looked like Simba, but his face was just, I don't know, it was just blank. It's like 2% of that. But then again, overall, I think they just told his story better. And they initially weren't going to stick so close to Toothless's sort of iconic, recognizable design. They experimented with more realistic-looking dragons for this movie, which is very funny because there are no such thing as real dragons. Essentially working on the philosophy that if the animated movie had been made after the live-action movie, then those would be sort of cartoon representations of real dragons, so what would those real dragons look like? But they found that in that development process, they were losing those characters, specifically Toothless. So they allowed the character design to be more Stitchified, more over-the-top, big proportions that don't necessarily make sense, massive eyes. And they focused more of the realism work on the human characters, the practical sets they built, and they played with like how Toothless moves. They based a little bit more of his movement on like jungle cats and jaguars. Stitch for the Lilo and Stitch remake, like it's just Stitch. He's maybe a little too desaturated. I think he could have been more blue. In terms of hard facts, the live-action Lilo and Stitch remake was originally going to be a straight-to-Disney Plus venture. It had a $100 million budget. That's a reported budget. Probably doesn't include the marketing campaign. But regardless, they made lots and lots of money. Stitch is kicking butt at the box office. How to Train Your Dragon, on the other hand, was made in a similar budgetary world. It had a $150 million budget. But then on the flip side, it also had a much smaller marketing campaign, right, Nova? I think now that this is like its own subgenre of movies now, live-action remakes, I think we do have to be more critical of them, and I think every time a new one comes out, you have to ask, okay, but why, right? Because I don't have an issue with retelling stories. I think it's a very human thing. We've retold the same stories over and over again throughout our entire history. It's like the most human thing ever to retell stories. But I think there should be a reason, right? There should be either a new filmmaker with a new vision, a cast that can bring some new element out of their characters, some new filmmaking technology, something. There has to be a reason why. And I think when you look at both Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon, and you ask that question, why are we getting these? They both don't really need to exist, but at least one of them has its original filmmaker still involved, and so it carries more of a through line, more of a spirit that connects it to the original, even though I might think overall Stitch was sort of an achievement more so than Toothless in adapting an animated character. But what do you think? Again, I've reached out to a couple of my watch buddies, and seemingly the consensus is like, yeah, I think Stitch was done better overall, but there's no question How to Train Your Dragon is the better movie. But what do you think? I'm curious. Who did it better, Stitch or Toothless? We'll be back with more Watch Buddies reviews. I'm going to have a few more of my friends jumping on to talk about a couple upcoming movies. Going to be doing these more regularly. We got a few big movies coming up as summer takes flight. Definitely going to be talking about Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman, Fantastic Four. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And then, of course, the regular short form videos that I do here, do on TikTok, do on Instagram. Thanks for watching, and bye.